Today on Face the Nation, the testimony of National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice. This week, the president's top national security advisor will testify in public before the 9/11 Commission. But what will the commission ask? How will her account of the administration's preparedness and sense of the terror threat square with that of Richard Clark? We'll talk with two of the commissioners, former Nebraska Senator Bob Kerrey and former Secretary of the Navy John Lehman. Doyle McManus of the Los Angeles Times joins in the questioning. Today, our Face the Nation 50th anniversary flashback will feature Martin Luther King Jr. And I'll have a final word on a corny old coach. But first, the Rice testimony on Face the Nation.
Face the Nation with CBS News Chief Washington Correspondent Bob Schieffer. And now from CBS News in Washington, Bob Schieffer.
And good morning again, where we're going to talk about these 9/11 Commission hearings. Two of the commissioners with us this morning. Bob Kerrey, the former senator from Nebraska, is in New York. In Newtown, Pennsylvania, John Lehman, of course, he's a Republican, former Secretary of the Navy. Doyle McManus of the Los Angeles Times is here for part of the questioning this morning. Welcome to you, Doyle. Let me just start with you, Senator Kerrey. Please explain to me why the president and the vice president will be testifying together. Is that the commission's idea? Is it the White House's idea? How did that come about?
Beats me. I mean, I don't know. All I know is that in the letter that they sent to us last week, they also included the agreement to have the president and the vice president meet with the entire commission. So I don't know what the White House was thinking, and I don't honestly know whether there was detailed negotiation between our chairman and vice chairman in the White House on that detail.
Do you think it's a good idea?
Well, frankly, I'm less concerned about the president and the vice president's testimony. I would never vote to subpoena, for example, and I think their testimony is important, but it's not as important as the testimony under oath of the National Security Advisor.
Well, Mr. Lehman, what do you think about it?
Well, I'm glad that they've dropped the restrictions on time, which were the most important thing. And I think testifying together while they've basically conceded everything that we really need is just a face saver. So it's fine with me that they're together, and we'll have all the time we need to ask the questions we need. But I agree with Bob that it's much more important to hear Condi Rice and to hear her lessons learned and her views of what happened.
Why?
Well, because she was right at the nexus 24 hours a day. She was the conduit to the president and the coordinator of national security policy, and she is the one that had to deal with all of the people that had their hair on fire. Dick Clark over terrorism, and other people over North Korea, and still others over proliferation and so forth. So she really has the view that we need to establish the facts.
Senator Kerrey, as I understand it, you're going to question the president and the vice president in private. It won't be public testimony. There won't even be a public record made of it. Doesn't that set up a situation where the American public is going to be consumed by curiosity about what those two leaders said, and you all are going to have to decide how much you divulge of it?
Well, perhaps I'll be consumed by it, I don't know. But, I mean, what we have to decide is it appropriate for us to bring the president and vice president out in front of the public at a hearing? I say no, and I say it would be inappropriate to ask them to testify under oath. We're talking about the commander-in-chief, active commander-in-chief, not a former commander-in-chief, and I just think it's inappropriate. And so I'm not concerned that that isn't going to happen. I think it's the appropriate thing to do.
I guess my question, Secretary Lehman, is won't that set up a situation where both sides on the political divide are going to want to come out and spin like crazy about what went on behind closed doors?
Well, sure they'll be spinning, but they have allowed us to bring a note taker who will be taking very good and copious notes, and you can be sure that our report will include all the relevant information. And it will be a bipartisan report, so nothing will be left out. I think you can be confident of that.
Mr. Lehman, you say that you think it's so important to talk to Condoleezza Rice. What do you want to hear from her? What will the line of questioning be?
Well, what I want to hear from her really is what, after we get her to address the facts and the more controversial issues about what measures were taken when, I want to hear her views on how we can fix what has gone wrong so badly, and our reports and our investigations have now nailed down so starkly, that we had an FBI that couldn't penetrate the domestic cells, that didn't share information. We had a CIA with a total aversion to covert activities, that had no capacity to penetrate al-Qaeda, that was not set up really for transnational enemies. We had a State Department that was issuing visas to indicted terrorists like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. We had an immigration service that the Congress had gutted over the years with no power because they didn't want secure borders. We had an FAA that had all its teeth pulled by the industry lobbyists and Congress. And we have a Congress that basically doesn't perform oversight of the intelligence community. She's now got her mind focused on just what went wrong, and I want to hear her views on some of the things that we're going to do and be recommending to make fundamental changes.
Well, those are very strong charges you've just leveled. Senator Kerry, do you agree with Mr. Lehman in the charges he's just laid out here?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say that slightly differently, that 19 men with $350,000 defeated every single defensive mechanism we had up on the 11th September 2001, and they defeated it utterly. Our Department of Defense, our FBI, our CIA, our FAA, the INS, I mean, every three-letter acronym in Washington, D.C., where there's billions of dollars being spent, was defeated on the 11th September, and defeated absolutely utterly. It wasn't even a close call. So the question is, how did that happen? There was a significant amount of warning that al-Qaeda was a threat. And in my view, my questioning will be to Dr. Rice. You say there wasn't a plan in the Bush administration. I think there was a plan. The problem was neither President Clinton nor President Bush put that plan into effect. And secondly, I would like to know what happened during the summer of 2001. What kind of warnings came in over the transom, and what did you do with those warnings? I'm very sympathetic to the problem of trying to imagine that somebody 8,000 miles away in a remote area of Afghanistan could be a threat to the United States of America. But indeed, that individual had carried out successful attacks against our embassies in Tanzania and Kenya, and then against the Cole in October of 2000, and then ultimately in the attack on the 11th September. I'm sympathetic to why you wouldn't regard it as a threat comparable to North Korea, China, and others. But the fact of the matter is, disregarding that threat, in my view, both in the Clinton and the Bush administration, got us into a lot of trouble.
Could it happen again? Could it happen today?
I think it's far less likely to happen today, although one of the central questions that seems to me that Dick Clark is raising, I don't agree with his conclusion, but it's a very important question as to whether or not since 9/11, as a result of the war in Iraq in particular, we've lost international public support and perhaps have increased the danger of terrorism, especially in the Islamic world. And this is radical Islam that we're fighting here, especially that small fraction of radical Islam that believes killing infidels is a good idea.
Well, leaving aside whether Dick Clark is right or Condi Rice is right on these specific points, you both gentlemen sound as if when the administration now says we did everything we could be expected to do in the year 2001 to prevent against this kind of attack, you both sound like you just don't buy that. Is that fair?
I would say that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair for both administrations, but it's not, our job is not to make the value judgments for the American people on that score. Our job is to show what was not done and why priorities were not where they should be, and why instructions given by two presidents to tighten up weren't carried out, or to carry out attacks, for instance, against al-Qaeda were not carried out. So that's really what the purpose of this commission is, not to point fingers at people, but to lay out the facts, draw the lessons, and come up with some very real, far-reaching changes to see that this doesn't happen again.
Now, I agree with John, and furthermore, I mean, you've got to change the question slightly and ask us, If we had been in charge, would we have done it differently? And in my case, I'm not sure I would have. So I'm very sympathetic, as I said. What I'm not sympathetic with is efforts to say, gee, we did everything absolutely possible that could have been done, because that doesn't give us the opportunity to examine what went wrong. It's very difficult to examine what went wrong during a presidential campaign. I wish the administration had given us an extension beyond the election, but that being the case, I think the commission has got to struggle to avoid the partisan firestorms that are going to be set off by Dr. Rice's testimony and others, and try to reach a conclusion of what happened, what went wrong, and what do we need to do to prevent it in the future.
And if things clearly went wrong, if they clearly could have been done otherwise, do you think the administration owes the American public any kind of apology or regret for that?
Well, let them to make that decision.
Well,
Go ahead,
I
Senator
think that
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Bob.
Well, that's for somebody else to decide. I mean, I was a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee during a great deal of this period of time, and though I was ferociously supportive of taking military action, disappointed that we'd treated it as a law enforcement case, beginning actually back with Khobar Towers in 1996, I feel some responsibility as well. And I feel that when Dick Clark got up and apologized to the families and said, we let you down, I put myself in that we did let you down. We missed some things. We didn't take the action that we should have. It's not like I'm tormented by it, but I do feel badly that we missed something that I think if we had gotten it right, we likely had, it's possible we could have prevented the tragedy on 11 September.
Mr. Lehman.
Well, I think if we get into the apology game, which has never much appealed to me so much as the accountability game, if we're getting into apologies, there are a lot of people that ought to apologize, starting with the leaders of Congress over 25 years, starting with intelligence heads over the last 30 years, starting with national security councils over the last 30 years, because the problems that are now being revealed in stark relief have been around for a long time. There have been, they've been identified before when things went wrong. There have been recommendations to fix them, and nothing was done. And that's not going to happen this time. We are going to make real changes. And I agree with Bob. This has been a tremendous experience with this commission, because we are really all on the same page. 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, but we've never had a divided vote on partisan lines, and we're not going to. We all see this problem emerging, and the solutions are beginning to take shape. So while it's tough to do it in a presidential campaign, because obviously both sides are going to try to grab snippets of where things went wrong on which watch and make political hay out of them, we're not going to be diverted from having a completely unanimous set of recommendations to fix this.
All right, and we certainly want to ask you what recommendations you already think you should make here, but I want to ask you also about the credibility of Richard Clark, and I'll just start with you, Mr. Lehman. He, of course, made quite a stir when he appeared on television and then appeared before your commission and said that the administration was just not taking any of this seriously enough. But I have here a letter that Congressman Christopher Shays of Connecticut wrote actually to your commission, warning you, I guess would be the way to put it in his words, about Mr. Clark, because he says when he had Mr. Clark before his committee before 9/11, that he did not seem to be taking the threat of terrorism himself seriously. And in fact, I'll quote from the letter, Mr. Clark said it would be silly to try to articulate a national strategy toward combating terrorism. And according to Mr. Shays, he did not lay out any kind of strategy that was underway at that time, but listed what Mr. Shays called a laundry list of terrorist groups in the country. Is what he has told you in private, does it jibe, Mr. Lehman, with what you heard in public? Are you satisfied that his criticisms are legitimate?
Well, my objection to Dick's book and to his testimony was he really chose up sides, whereas when he testified under oath with us in private and previously before the Joint Committee, he told a very objective story that was very illuminating to us and very damning to a lot of individuals in both the Clinton and the Bush years, the 8 Clinton years and the 7 Bush months. He didn't pull any punches. He was very objective. And then, lo and behold, comes the book, and everything in the 8 Clinton years he apologizes for and dismisses and puts all his fire on one side. That, unfortunately, took away one of our star witnesses, because he's not credible now, because he's chosen up political sides, and he's retelling history in the light of where we are in the campaign today and what sells his books, in my judgment. But I want to emphasize the worst possible thing we could do would be to try to turn this into what did Dick Clark say and when did he say it. The worst thing that's happened, in my judgment, over the last 20-some years has been this attempt to criminalize policy differences. This is not a perjury issue.
All right.
This is a man who's made political judgments.
Let's hear what Senator Kerry has to say.
Well, finally we found a moment where I disagree. I just disagree with that. I mean, I do not think that that personalizing the attack on Dick Clark, which I think has happened. I think that's what Chris Shays is doing. I mean, nobody who knows Dick Clark could say anything other than this guy was a pile driver when it came to terrorism. That's all he cared about, morning, noon, and nighttime too. I mean, that was his passion. And looking at the book itself, I mean, the actual book is mildly critical of President Bush. The problem, it seems to me, is that Dick Clark is surfacing something that we didn't ask him when we interviewed him, which is he believes that the war in Iraq was distracting and, in fact, diminished our capacity to engage the war on terrorism. Now, I disagree with that, but let's argue that. Let's analyze whether or not that's the case. He makes a very startling statement that there's been more terrorist attacks against the United States in the 30 months since 9/11 than the 30 months leading up. And he believes it came because we withdrew our efforts in Afghanistan and went into Iraq, and as a consequence, we lost a lot of momentum. That's his argument. As I said, I don't agree with that, but that's the startling, it seems to me, a clap of thunder argument that he presented to the commission and that he presents in his book. Other than that, I don't find him to be anything other than sort of mildly critical and much more sympathetic in his book than people are allowing.
Right.
And by the way, profiteering on the book, I didn't hear any Republicans criticizing Karen Hughes for putting her book out the same week.
Okay.
So it seems to me that we should focus on his arguments, what he's presenting, that the commission should and the public should. And if you disagree with these arguments, say so. But to personalize it seems to me is a mistake.
Mr. Lehman, you said the commission is going to make specific recommendations where to go from here. Very briefly, I'm told there's only about a minute left. What would the top of that be?
Well, I think the top of it would be a sweeping change, not in reorganization, because we're not just moving boxes. We're not going to recommend moving boxes around as a way to fix things, but a deep change in the culture, the personnel policies, this overclassification and security, the way we run our immigration service, the way we do our State Department consular services abroad. It'll be very sweeping, but realistic and doable, and that's the key.
All right. We have to leave it there. Thank you both so much for this interview this morning. Back with another Face the Nation 50th anniversary flashback in a minute.
This portion of Face the Nation is sponsored by the people of PricewaterhouseCoopers and by the document company, Xerox. There's a new way to look at it.
Said old Casey to this one poor bloke standing there, nervously and shy. I need brave hearts for the risks ahead. I need passion in your eye. To which he answered timidly, please, sir, pass me by. Who then? Casey shouted.
Who then?
Who then shall I choose? All but one took one step back and looked down at their shoes. The one alone had this to say. We must forward move or not at all. And if we fail, sir, I'll take the fall. Thus Casey found what he needed most, a leader to fill his courage post.
Of course, everyone has the right to be published, but the odds are against you. Why? Money. A publisher must commit thousands of dollars for an initial...
That's not exactly true.
With on-demand publishing technology, everything's digitized. People can even print one book at a time and forget warehousing, so now everyone here can get published. Come on.
On April 4th, 1968, 36 years ago today, Martin Luther King Jr., the greatest civil rights leader America had ever known, and the youngest man ever to win the Nobel Peace Prize, was killed by an assassin's bullet in Memphis, Tennessee. King appeared on Face the Nation in each of the last 4 years of his life. His first appearance is our Face the Nation 50th anniversary flashback. In the spring of 1964, there had been demonstrations across the South. Southern senators were filibustering to block passage of Lyndon Johnson's massive civil rights bill. And King was worried that politics was being polarized along racial lines.
Dr. King, in light of recent statements of Senator Barry Goldwater and, in some cases, Richard Nixon, do you think there is a real danger of the Republican Party becoming the white man's party in this country?
I think this is a real danger, and I've talked with some Negro Republicans who are very concerned about this. I see trends and developments which will reveal that unless the liberals of the Republican Party take play a much more decisive role in leadership positions, this will become a white man's party. And I think this would be tragic for the Republican Party as well as tragic for the nation.
The Civil Rights Bill passed that summer and Lyndon Johnson was elected. But many Southern whites switched from the Democratic to the Republican Party, giving it the kind of power it had not enjoyed in the South since Reconstruction. Another Face the Nation 50th anniversary flashback. And I'll be back with a final word.
Face the Nation continues and is always on CBSNews.com. Brought to you in part by Walmart. Saving you and your family time and money with everyday low prices.
Make more of your money work for you. Consider a Fidelity Freedom Fund targeted to your retirement year. For more information and to open a no-fee Roth IRA, call 800-642-0816 today.
I guess if I had to kick someone off the lifeboat, I'd kick Walker off.
Agreed.
Why me?
Why not?
Ah!
What?
They tested the sprinklers on 14 and flooded the records room.
What about the audits?
We're dead.
Financials?
No, we're not.
We're not?
Last month, every important document we have was scanned into a secure database we can access from anywhere.
Okay, why?
So it means I can stay, right?
If a lazy moment turns into the right moment, will you be ready? Introducing Cialis, the first tablet for erectile dysfunction that gives you up to 36 hours to choose the moment that's right for you and your partner. New Cialis goes to work fast and can work for up to 36 hours. Cialis is not for everyone. If you take nitrates for chest pain or certain alpha blockers for prostate problems or high blood pressure, do not take Cialis. Such combinations could cause a sudden unsafe drop in blood pressure. Don't drink alcohol in excess with Cialis. The most common side effects were headache, upset stomach, delayed backache, or muscle ache. Erections lasting longer than 4 hours, though rare, require immediate medical help. Discuss your health status with your doctor to ensure Cialis is right for you and you are healthy enough for sexual activity. Ask your doctor if a free sample of prescription Cialis is right for you. 36-hour Cialis. When the moment is right, will you be ready?
The taser. It's supposed to stop suspects in their tracks, but not harm them. So why are 40 people dead? An Eye on America series begins Monday on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
Finally today, maybe it is the obscene excess brought to light in the Dennis Kozlowski trial, or the springtime of excuses about drug testing being made by the Millionaire Baseball Players Union. Or maybe it's just watching the 9/11 Commission search for someone in or out of government with no agenda. But on this basketball weekend, it got me thinking about what an old basketball coach used to teach his players. First, he said, never lie, never cheat or steal. He told them that the team comes before the individual, and he taught them that true peace of mind, self-respect, comes from not winning, but knowing you did your best. When his star player grew a beard in defiance of team rules, saying it was his right, the old coach asked if that belief was deeply held. When the kid said yes, the coach said he admired a person with deeply held beliefs, then added, "We're going to miss you." The kid got a shave. Oh, it's corny stuff, all right, except the coach was UCLA's John Wooden, the most successful basketball coach of all time. He won 10 NCAA championships at UCLA, 16 conference championships, and during the 1970s, his teams won an astonishing 88 games in a row. Corny? Sure, but John Wooden knew those rules worked. He knew they worked on and off the court. And by the way, the kid who got the shave was one of basketball's best ever, Bill Walton. He said Wooden, who's nearly 90 now, wasn't teaching basketball, he was teaching life. If only so many of the people in today's headlines had attended his classes. John Wooden, what a great man. That's it for us. We'll see you next week, right here on Face the Nation.
To help your business succeed, at UBS, we give you all the resources you'd expect of one of the world's most highly awarded global investment banks. But to understand what your business really needs, we bring something more to the table. We work with you, like it's the world's most powerful two-person financial firm. You and us, UBS.
Blue skies smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see.
HP Services and Technology help the world's great companies face, manage, and love change.
Singing a song, nothing but bluebirds.
HP. Invent.
Some of the world's new sources of energy are close at hand, but until recently, unreachable.
The Grand Banks of Newfoundland, where the Hibernia platform is located, is one of the most extreme environments in the world.
ExxonMobil made resources that were previously not recoverable.
This technology will soon be used off the coast of Russia and elsewhere, giving a growing world more options. ExxonMobil, taking on the world's toughest energy challenges.
This portion of Face the Nation was sponsored by ExxonMobil, taking on the world's toughest energy challenges, and by Cialis. Ask your doctor if a free sample of Cialis is right for you. This broadcast was produced by CBS News, which is solely responsible for the selection of today's guests and topics. It originated in Washington, D.C.
Experience CBS News.
This week, all these years, they never knew how they were conceived.